Okay, hello everybody. So today we're going to be learning about summarizing informational texts. Informational texts cover a large range of writing, such as biographies, reports, newspapers, textbooks, and a lot more. The topics can cover most things from, like, for example, the discovery of cells in a science textbook to a biography of George Washington in a historical essay. Now, to start this lesson off, does anybody think they know what a summary is? Yes, Matan?
Yeah, I think it should be a short description of what we read.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. So when thinking through the process of making this summary, we're going to be looking at the rule of 5 Ws and how we can incorporate these things to make a really nice, concise summary. So right now I am going to share my screen to show you all what those 5 Ws are. Now, can everybody see my screen? Okay, perfect. So the first W that we want to include in our summary is who. Who wrote the text? So the first two things we're going to be looking at when we're looking at a summary is one, who wrote the original text and what is the title of that text? And we want to be including those two things within the first sentence of our summary, just to make sure that the audience knows what we're referencing when we're summarizing information. The second W we want to do is looking at the what. What are the main ideas in the text? And these main ideas are the things that you want to include in that summary. So a tip, if you're not sure what the author's main ideas are, is to look at the individual paragraphs and to think, what does the author want me to take away from these paragraphs? So from each of those paragraphs, you should be saying, I think this is the main idea, and these are the things that I'm going to be including in my summary. The third W is when. When did the events happen? So when audiences or readers are reading a summary, they really want to know what happened in a logical order, right? We want to know the narrative of a person's story when we're looking at a biography, or a logical way of thinking about the discovery of cells if we're reading a science textbook. So we really want to make sure that when we're doing things, we're doing them in order of the original text. So for example, if I'm doing a biography of a famous person, I really want to be saying that that person was born on a certain date in the beginning of the summary, and that person died on a certain date at the end of the summary. If I were to switch up the order of those two events, it might make it so that the reader becomes pretty confused when they're reading that summary. Again, the summary should be a very clear and concise version of the original text that we're referencing. The fourth W we want to look at is why. Why are these ideas important? So when we're thinking about things that we want to include and details that we think aren't super important, we want to be asking ourselves, is the reader going to understand the main ideas and this person's story if I leave out a couple of these details? So for example, if we're thinking about a very specific historical event and why that event is important, and the famous person acting in that event just so happens to have a blue dress on, we probably don't need to know that in order to know what the event was and why it was important. So when we're thinking about what we should include and what we shouldn't include, we want to think, what does the reader want to know, and give them that information in a really brief, descriptive way. The last W that we want to look at is where. So just like when we think about when these events happened, we want to know where they happened. Where was a person born and where did they die? We want to know where important events happened, just so we know the narrative arc of a person's life story, where they started from and where they ended up. These are all very important things to include in our summary that tell us a lot about the text that we're referencing. Yes, no, I see a hand.
How long do summaries need to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So summary should be between 5 sentences to 8 sentences, could be a little shorter depending on the original text and could be a bit longer, but in general, those are the overall guidelines. So now to help you remember this process of the 5 Ws, I'm going to be repeating a chant, and then on 3, we're all going to be repeating that chant together. Okay, so this is the chant. Who, what, when, why, where, this is what we want to share. Okay, on 3, we're all going to repeat this. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Who, what, when, why, where, this is what we want to share. Incredible. Okay. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat or anything else at the end. But for now, thank you all for this lesson.
Thanks,
Okay,
Miss
bye
Rani.
everyone.